Welcome to the last of 4 modules containing technical information on developing action plans as part of the South and Southeast Asia Air Improvements in the Region, or SSEA-AIR program. This module focuses on the final sections of the SSEA-AIR action plan template, including cost management, risk management, quality management, and success metrics. We present examples and best practices for these components, as well as tips to help you along the way. Battelle, under a cooperative agreement with US EPA and the US EPA's technical team, developed this module. Before continuing with this module, we recommend that you have a copy of the SSEA-AIR action plan template, as well as your draft action plan, which many of you developed last summer at the 2019 SSEA-AIR workshop in Taiwan. This module has several objectives. 1. To review the purpose of the SSEA-AIR program. 2. To review the purpose of an action plan. And 3. To discuss and provide details on how to complete the following sections of your SSEA-AIR action plan. Section 7, Cost Management. Section 8, Risk Management. And Section 9, Quality Management. We will also cover these sections on contact information and supporting technical documents. As we go through these sections, we will provide examples, best practices, and some resources to help you. We will also review the topic of success metrics, which was presented in Modules 1 and 2. Developing, then tracking your progress toward attaining the success metric or metrics of your action plan ensures that you are able to quantify improvements in air quality as a result of corrected measures or actions that you have taken. As a refresher from the previous 3 modules, the SSEA-AIR program has 3 main components. The first is to build technical capacity in South and Southeast Asian countries, provinces, and cities to enhance their air quality management programs and their ability to address existing air quality problems. The second component is to provide a forum for showcasing success stories or best practices and for exchanging technical information to help countries to take on-the-ground actions that reduce pollutant emissions and improve air quality. For example, you can learn from Taiwan's successes, which have significantly improved air quality, as shown in the figure on this slide. In the SSEA-AIR program, we encourage using an action planning process to reduce emissions and to improve air quality, and to produce success stories that you can share with our program partners. The third component is to produce action plans that include 1 or more new actions or control measures that lead to quantifiable reductions in pollution emissions. The SSEA-AIR program recommends that countries target fine particulate matter, commonly known as PM 2.5, for emissions reductions. This pollutant has been the focus of much research and is commonly used as an indicator of exposure to air pollution. However, you may also choose to target other pollutants such as NOx, ozone, SO2, or VOCs. Taiwan is an example of a country that has successfully focused on reducing PM 2.5 to greatly improve its air quality over the past decade. On this slide, we discuss the purpose of developing an action plan. Recall from Module 1 that an action plan provides a framework and specific steps to improve air quality. An action plan is based on local and regional data and scientific analyses and includes 1 or more substantive actions that will lead to quantifiable reductions in pollutant emissions or in measured pollutant concentrations. There are many reasons to create and implement an action plan. First and foremost, an action plan is a means to help protect and improve human health. The cost of poor air quality cannot be underestimated. Reducing pollution will also protect the natural environment and enhance visibility. That is, will reduce haze, and is critical to both ecosystem health and to economic development, including tourism. The action plan process can be used to integrate air quality considerations into other planning processes, such as facility permitting, municipal planning, and regional growth strategies. Other reasons to create action plans include providing a mechanism to enhance public awareness and give the public access to air quality data, and to research on health effects and ways to reduce air pollution. And last but certainly not least, action plans provide industry a degree of certainty about future air quality requirements. Before we begin Module 4, let's review the content of the previous modules. In Module 1, we introduced you to the SSEA-AIR program and to the concept of an action plan, including its components. In Module 2, we provided details and examples covering the first 4 sections of an action plan, including its goals and objectives, that is, success metrics, airshed characterization, including a description of the area and current air quality and emission sources, and the scope of your planned action or actions. In Module 3, we discussed the schedule for implementing the action or actions and public and stakeholder involvement, and communication planning and management. Let's begin with Section 7 of the SSEA-AIR Action Plan template, the section on cost management. Managing costs is critical to achieving the success of your action plan. There are 2 main types of costs. The first are administrative costs. These include the costs of developing, managing, and implementing your action plan, and can also include an estimate of the costs to the regulated community that will result from your action plan. The second type are costs avoided, as well as the benefits gained and revenues earned from carrying out your action plan. For example, exposure to air pollution often results in increased healthcare expenses and lost worker productivity. Therefore, to calculate your total return on your investment, or ROI, you compare the sum of the costs avoided, benefits gained, and revenues earned to the administrative costs of implementing your plan. This calculation is shown on the slide. Decision makers need an estimate of their return on investment to ensure that an action plan represents a good investment of financial resources. For the U.S. EPA, administrative costs usually only include the regulated community's costs. Your ministries may be different, and you may need to consider all administrative costs when determining ROI. We encourage you to tailor how to track and collect costs to meet your needs. We'll now focus on estimating the administrative costs of your action plan. First, make sure that you capture the costs of various control measures that may be implemented. Next, list and document costs associated with each action, including possible revenue. Finally, consider if emerging technologies will be used. If so, how were those costs estimated? What were your assumptions? Let's talk more about action plan administrative costs. Such costs include staff, operating costs such as office space and computing equipment, and field equipment such as air monitoring instruments. These costs should include those for the regulators such as the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Transportation, and cover all aspects of developing, managing, and implementing your action plan. You may also include costs to the regulated community, such as the cost of being required to purchase, install, and operate new boilers or pollution control equipment. Doing so will assist you in persuading stakeholders to support your action plan and will help to calculate the ROI for your action plan. It's a good practice to track these costs in a database, on a cost template, or using project management software. Think about all aspects of your action plan from start to finish to make sure that you capture all known and potential administrative costs. Ask yourself and your team, where is our funding coming from? What do we do if we go over budget? Or if we have unexpected costs? Do we have a contingency plan in place? Who manages these costs? There are several tools that the U.S. EPA has developed to manage administrative costs, as well as to estimate the costs avoided and benefits gained of implementing an action plan. For example, EPA has manuals for developing costs for air pollution control devices, spreadsheets for estimating the costs of these devices, and software for modeling emissions reductions. Other U.S. EPA tools are available on economic impact analyses, including databases, models, and reports for conducting analyses of air pollution regulations. Economic assessments for understanding the impact of air quality on human health, the environment, and the economy are also available. Links to these resources are available below in the comments field of the PowerPoint file. On the next slide, we'll give an example of a U.S. EPA tool that can be used to estimate benefits of reducing air pollution. U.S. EPA and its partners created the BenMap Community Edition, or BenMap CE, which is an open-source computer program to calculate the number and economic value of air pollution-related deaths and illnesses. This resource can help answer questions such as, what is the burden to human health of air pollution? Or, what are the benefits of a policy reducing air pollution by a certain amount? BenMap CE uses health burden analyses to estimate health impacts of air pollution from total air pollution levels. BenMap CE can also estimate avoided health impacts for health pollution changes from recent or projected pollution levels after a policy has been implemented. Using BenMap CE can assist you in calculating the ROI for your action plan. The next slide shows an example of how BenMap CE has been used in Asia. Researchers in Mumbai, India, sought to understand the health and economic benefits of various air pollution reduction strategies with a focus on reducing vehicle emissions. The model framework is shown on the slide. They selected a geographic region, developed an emissions inventory, and modeled the dispersion of the pollutants. Then, they validated the predicted concentrations with monitoring data. Next, they modeled health benefit costs of various types of pollution controls. Finally, they determined that revised emission standards and a liquefied petroleum gas, or LPG, vehicle management strategy would provide the most benefits. You can read more about this example by following the link available within the PowerPoint file. U.S. EPA may be available for support or assistance using BenMap CE depending on available resources. Here's another example of a cost-benefit analysis for a project where Taiwan uses economic incentives and regulations to address air pollution. As shown in the figure on this slide, a component of Taiwan's Clean Air Action Plan is to reduce pollution by retrofitting boilers. The cost of replacing oil boilers with heat pumps was covered in only 2 years by the savings in fuel alone. This cost analysis shows the value of replacing a hospital's older, higher polluting oil-fired boiler with a higher efficiency, lower emitting heat pump boiler. In this third example, this time from Jakarta, Indonesia, the Ministry of Environment conducted a cost-benefit analysis to assess various policy options to reduce vehicle emissions. They considered a wide variety of policies, from implementing emission standards and fuel efficiency requirements to new technologies and the use of new fuel types. They calculated reductions in vehicle emissions and associated public health risks to estimate the monetary values of the costs and benefits of implementing the various options. Using the results, the policymakers were able to make a fact-based decision on the best option to pursue. You can read more about this example by following the links available in the notes section of the PowerPoint file. If you're having trouble estimating administrative costs, a good place to start is to ask key questions such as, how many staff are needed? For how long? What equipment and instruments need to be purchased? Next, identify databases and spreadsheets that can help you organize and track these administrative costs. U.S. EPA and other partners in the region may have examples or tools you can use, such as BenMap CE. The U.S. EPA team is also available to help. Let's move on to the next topic of this module, risk management. This is Section 8 of the SSEA-AIR Action Plan template. There are always risks associated with undertaking any project. In the context of an action plan, there is always the risk that something could occur that affects your ability to implement your plan. Therefore, you need to identify and address these risks by planning ahead. In the risk management section of your action plan, you should describe the process of identifying, tracking, and minimizing the negative impacts of risks to your plan's success. Examples of two common risks are staff turnover and difficulty obtaining required permits. Voluntary versus mandatory actions and emerging versus proven technologies also have risks. If these examples apply to you, your risk management strategy will vary based on which of these options you decide to pursue. A best practice is succession planning. One of the most likely risks you will encounter is staff leaving your agency. Cross-training and succession planning are important so that as staff leave your agency, knowledge and expertise are not lost. It's important that multiple people have similar skills and that procedures are documented so that they are replicable and other staff can access materials and training. As an obvious example, ensure that more than one person knows how to operate monitoring equipment so that if someone leaves, measurements can continue uninterrupted. Here's an example of a best practice to manage risk. On this slide is a risk register for the wood stove changeout program in the fictional Mountain Valley. This register describes possible risks, probabilities of their occurrence, and possible responses. As well as estimating the qualitative risk, you should also seek to quantify the amount of money that should be held in reserve to address these risks. Documenting your risks in a register like this helps you stay organized and prepared. If you're having trouble managing the risks to your action plan success, here are some ideas to help. Solicit and capture input on the risk register from a diverse audience. This additional insight can help you better identify risks and develop possible mitigation actions. Review your risk register every couple of months to make sure the information is still current and relevant. Ask partner countries in the region for their ideas. Learn how they've managed similar risks such as funding limitations or staff turnover. And as always, talk to the US EPA team if you need other ideas. The next topic is managing quality. This is section 9 in the SSEA-AIR action plan template. As we introduced in Module 1, quality management is essential to a successful action plan. Note that quality management is multifaceted. It relates to everything in your plan, from ensuring that quality data are collected, to calibrating monitoring instruments, to documenting every step as you implement your action. For scientific data collection in your action plan, you may need to develop a quality assurance project plan, known as a QAP. You will also need to develop one or more quantitative metrics to show the success of your action plan. How will you ensure that your plan produces quality results that you can share with all stakeholders? US EPA has guidance for writing QAPs. A link is included in the notes field of the PowerPoint file of this presentation. Let's talk more about a QAP. A QAP is a document that explains how organizations ensure, using quality assurance and quality control activities, that the data they collect are scientifically defensible and can be used for their intended purpose. It's a good idea to create a QAP if your project uses or collects environmental data, or if you might want others to use your data. The sections of a QAP will vary depending on your action plan, but may include project or task organization and schedule, data sources, quality objectives, and acceptance criteria for measurement data, documentation and records, sampling and analytical requirements and methods, validation and verification methods, data management and reporting, and a project organization chart. Here's an example of a QAP. The Citizen Science Quality Assurance and Documentation Handbook is a great resource that provides templates with instructions, tables, questions to consider, examples, and checklists. It poses key questions that you might consider for your action plan as well. For example, what is the purpose of your action plan and the question you want to answer? How and where are you planning to collect samples, data, or other information? How are you training staff and/or volunteers to collect samples, data, or information? How will you control for errors in the field, in the laboratory, or during data analysis? How will you check your data and determine if it is useful? Where do the data go and who will look at them? You can access this QAP to review in more detail via the link posted in the notes section of the PowerPoint file of this presentation. An example of an action plan that would need a QAP is the example where regulators in a fictional mountain valley have decided to implement a wood stove changeout program and to develop a burn ban regulation. A QAP for this project would be needed for gathering and interpreting air monitoring and meteorological data. The QAP would include procedures for calibrating, inspecting, and maintaining equipment. In this example, reductions in PM 2.5 emissions were estimated based on the stoves replaced and average emissions per stove. The QAP could also include how the number of stove replacements and their emission levels will be determined. Finally, the QAP could include a section on how to administer the wood stove changeout program. If you're having trouble planning for and managing quality, here are a few tips. We suggest that you document procedures in the order in which they will occur. Templates for QAPs are available from US EPA. Pick those that make sense for your action plan. Work with your management to ensure that your action plan includes adequate funds for developing and implementing quality assurance or quality control procedures, as these are essential to the success of your plan. The next section of the SSEA-AIR Action Plan template is for key contacts and roles. This is Section 10. This section captures contact information for all the stakeholders involved in your action plan. It also captures their roles and responsibilities. In the template, you should include the names and contact information of the stakeholders, including mailing and email addresses and phone numbers. And you should describe how each person is contributing to the development, management, and/or implementation of your action plan. The last section of the SSEA-AIR Action Plan template is for supporting documents. This is Section 11. The need for and type of supporting documents will vary on your action plan, but may include process charts, pollution sources that are candidates for control or reduction, emission inventories, emission calculation methods, a QAP or other project documentation, and metrics demonstrating the effectiveness of control measures or actions associated with your plan. Speaking of metrics, let's review the important topic of success metrics. Success metrics are quantitative measures which assess the performance of your action plan. They will be different for each action plan. Be creative and recall from Module 2 that each metric should be SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Your success metric should also be easily understandable to all stakeholders, especially the regulated community and the public. Consider what your management thinks is important so that you can measure success with them in mind. As an example, the success metric for the Mountain Valley Wood Smoke Project is to meet PM 2.5 air quality standards by 2023. Your partners in the region also gave great examples from our 2019 SSEA-AIR workshop. For example, the Vietnam Environment Administration wants to reduce PM 2.5 in Ho Chi Minh City to 20 micrograms per cubic meter by 2025. Indonesia's Meteorology, Climatology, and Geophysical Agency wants to reduce the number of fire hotspot events in central Kalimantan by 10% by 2025. We've reached the end of Module 4. In this module, we reviewed the SSEA-AIR program purpose and provided details, examples, and best practices for the last 5 sections of the SSEA-AIR Action Plan template, including cost management, risk management, and quality management, as well as contacts and supporting documents. We also reviewed the importance of success metrics and gave a few examples. Having reached the conclusion of the 4th and final module, we have introduced you to and provided best practices on and examples of how to complete the various parts of your action plan. We started by looking at airshed characterization, describing the geographical area and its current air quality and emission sources are important foundations for the rest of your action plan and the emissions reduction you are seeking to attain. The next sections of the action plan relate to the specific actions to be implemented. You describe the scope of the action and a schedule for implementing the action, then discuss public and stakeholder involvement. Next, you develop a communication plan to ensure that education and awareness building efforts are incorporated into your action plan. Finally, we presented tools and best practices for managing costs, risks, and quality, including best practices with US EPA tools such as BenMap CE, risk registries, and QAPs, respectively. Rounding out your action plan are sections on stakeholder contact information and any relevant supporting documents. We hope that these 4 modules will be helpful in completing and implementing your SSEA-AIR action plan. Remember that your plan is a living document that can be revised and updated over time. Iterate with your management and team as you need to. We encourage you to maintain contact with your SSEA-AIR partners so that you can learn from each other and share resources. Finally, feel free to reach out to US EPA and EPA Taiwan with requests for technical support. When possible, we hope to address any concerns or questions. Our team's technical experts are available to answer your questions and to support you during the development of your action plan. Here is our contact information. You have now completed Module 4, the last module of this series. Thank you for your attention throughout all of the modules. We look forward to seeing successful action plans be implemented over the coming months and years.